It's not normal for the world to simply have a unipolar power. That was an anomaly. It was the product of the end of the Cold War, but eventually you were going to reach back to a point where you had a multipolar world. February 5th, 2025, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So today we're going to look at Marco Rubio. He's the U.S. Secretary of State, and I think he's made one of the most important statements of the last 80 years or so. Yes, it's that important. He basically said that the unipolar world, the Pax Americana, is over, and that we are in a multipolar world. I bet the neocons are not happy about that, but we've got a new regime in town in DC, and it doesn't mean that America is going to be put on the back foot. And that's what we're going to look at today, and how important that is in terms of the monetary sphere, in terms of the dollar. It doesn't mean the end of the dollar, but it means the dollar will be one of the currencies among many. It's not going to be the currency, and we're going to look at that today. Before we do, though, just want to talk a little bit about what's going on here in the UK today in terms of the central bank, the Bank of England. They're expected to cut rates from 4.75% to 4.5%. They've only cut 3 times since last year. A lot of other banks have cut a lot more. But we have rising prices here, what people call inflation. And I've spoken about this as well. The government here, the previous government, they fudged the inflation number. They had the Office of National Statistics revised the whole CPI going back more than 50 years, back in 2022. So actually, the CPI, or what they call inflation, is not really 2.5%. It's more like 3.5 or 4. But be as it may, it looks like we're also in a recession, and what I'm trying to say here is that they're going to keep inflating the system. The economy is not going to pick up. We're seeing that the policies of the Labor government is punishing the private sector, and they keep spending in the public sector. So is it any wonder that gold keeps going up, not just versus the dollar, but versus the pound, and is going to continue to do. Yes, the fiat currencies are all sinking, and I think we could see an acceleration of inflation or rising prices this year in the UK. I was just reading that they expect another 2 rate cuts this year, aside from today, but that could be a lot more. And the only thing we've got left in terms of growth is the housing sector, or real estate. And I'm sure the Bank of England will probably do the most to pump that market up, bring down short-term rates in the UK, maybe bring down the 2-year and the 5-year yield, because that's what the mortgages are based upon here, and inflate this housing bubble even more. But the economy itself, the manufacturing services, that's going down the drain. So more than ever, it's important to try to have some exposure to precious metals. And I've been warning people here on this channel for almost 10 years. And many of you have asked me, where can we get gold and silver? Well, here in the UK, I'm affiliated with Gold Investments. They've been in business since 1981, family-run business. Yes, do your homework, check around, but if you want to help the channel as well, yeah, talk to Oliver or Simon Temple at Gold Investments. All the details are below in the description. In the US, of course, I'm affiliated with Miles Franklin and Andy Schechtman, and I can vouch for him too. And he'll be of help to you if you have questions about anything pertaining to gold and silver. And all the details for that are below in the description. So let's get back to Marco Rubio. And I've seen on X or on Twitter a clip of Marco Rubio. I think it was last year. He was still a senator, and he was talking about BRICS. And a lot of people have focused on this recently. I'm not sure why. I was speaking to a friend yesterday, and I said to this friend, I think what Marco Rubio said is really, really important. And she said, well, but that was a while ago. And I said, no, it's more recent what I'm talking about. It's an interview he did in the Megyn Kelly show about 5 days ago. And I recommend you go to the Megyn Kelly YouTube channel and check it out. She's got about 6 videos pertaining to that interview. And as I said in the beginning of this video, that I think it's the most important statement regarding the United States foreign policy and the United States' place in the world since World War II. Yeah, it's that important, and it's going to affect the currency. So before I talk about the consequences of his statement and what it means, not just to the United States, but to you and to everyone around the world, just want to read what he said, the part that I think is really important. I'm not going to play the clip here. I could, but I think it's better that I read it, and I recommend you go to Megyn Kelly's YouTube channel. She did some clips of the interview. I think the interview was quite long. It was like an hour and 4 minutes, but there's one here that is about 7 minutes, and it's the one that I've looked at, and I'm going to put it up here in the cards. But this is what he says. I'm just going to have a sip of my coffee before. Okay. So this is exactly what he said. I wrote it down. It's not normal for the world to simply have a unipolar power. That was an anomaly. It was the product of the end of the Cold War, but eventually you were going to reach back to a point where you had a multipolar world, multi-great powers in parts of the planet. We face that now with China and to some extent with Russia. So if you go back to the end of the Cold War, and that's the early 90s, 1990s, when the Soviet Union collapsed, there was an analyst or philosopher or whatever you want to call him, Francis Katayama, I think. He said that it was the end of history because the United States won the battle, won the Cold War. But I think he was a bit premature, or he didn't do his homework to realize that, like Marco Rubio said, a unipolar world doesn't last that long. I'm sure the neocons are not happy about this. They had their project for a new America that they came out with in the late 90s. And the new America was not just a new America, but a new world where America was in charge. And this has been the policy up until now, up until the second term of President Trump. And people like Victoria Nuland, Bill Bill Kristol, I mean, all the neocons, John Bolton, they thought that America should be the only power. But now the Secretary of State is saying, no, this is an anomaly, and we're going back to a multipolar world. And a lot of people out there have been poo-pooing channels like mine and others that have been saying for the last few years that BRICS and other countries were disrupting and dismantling this unipolar world, this Pax Americana, and that, the dollar was not going to be as important. It wasn't going to be the major reserve asset or major reserve currency anymore, even though it will be a major currency. Don't forget, the British pound was the major reserve currency, actually, up until 1954. Some people think it was earlier that it lost its top billing, but it wasn't. I've looked at charts of the reserves, and in 1954 was the year where the dollar took over as the major reserve currency. And what I'm trying to say here is that 70 years later, the pound is still relatively important. It's still like 5% of the reserves that countries hold around the world. I'm not saying the dollar is going to do the same, but the dollar won't be as important. And that's why, again, we come back to gold. And there's a lot of speculation that all the gold flowing to the U.S. is the United States getting ready for that. And I think they are. And listening to Marco Rubio, you might think, oh, you're talking about geopolitics. It's got nothing to do with the money. Well, it has everything to do with the money, because Marco Rubio is admitting that the great powers have to respect each other, that you can't bully other powers around. And he also said, before I continue, and this is really important, he said foreign policy should be about furthering the interest of the United States, well, America first, and doing so to the extent of avoiding war and armed conflict. He also said, and you can listen to it, that it's not just the United States that should look after its own interests, but every other country.
And I think the mission of American foreign policy, and this may sound sort of obvious, but I think it's been lost. The interest of American foreign policy is to further the national interest of the United States of America, right? I mean,
America first.
Well, and that's the way the world has always worked. The way the world has always worked is that the Chinese will do what's in the best interest of China, the Russians will do what's in the best interest of Russia, you know, the Chileans are going to do what's in the best interest of Chile, and the United States needs to do what's in the best interest of the United States.
And the purpose of diplomacy and foreign policy is to try to come together and work out the differences between you and other great powers or other countries. And it's amazing, because that's what I think Russia and China have been telling the world, that they don't want to take over the world. They just want to be given equal footing and sovereignty. They don't want this neocon unipolar stick hitting them, right, and controlling everything. And I think, thankfully, the new administration in the U.S. has realized this, that it doesn't work. The sanctions don't work. Yes, Trump is waging a tariff war, but I think that's more short-term negotiating ploy, so that, as I've said before, these great powers can sit down and work out a new system. We need a new system. The post-World War II Bretton Woods petrodollar system, that's over. And Marco Rubio said that, and I think it's really important. So let's look at the markets. Some of you might be asking, what do you think about gold and silver? Well, they're doing what they should be doing. I think this is really significant, the breakout that we've had. Right now, as I speak, we are at a new all-time high, 28.66. That's it in dollars. Some of you might be asking, I always get this question, well, it's too high to buy right now. Well, it's never the right time to buy, according to a lot of people. And what is the right time to buy gold? Well, we have to think of gold as insurance, and that, that it's money. Of course, I think there is a right time to buy, and that's whenever you can, whenever you have spare fiat currency. But there's also a wrong time to buy, and that's when there's too much enthusiasm, when everyone's talking about it. And you hear, for example, I saw a video the other day, someone, a financial analyst, saying that gold is not a good place to be. And he used the example or the time frame that if you bought gold in 1980 at $800, you wouldn't really be doing that well. And that there is an example of buying when everyone's buying, when there's enthusiasm, and you buy at the top, right? He failed to say that a couple of months before that high in January of 1980, gold was still at $400 back in the beginning of November 79. So what I'm trying to say here, do a dollar cost average every month or every 3 months, whenever you can. And try to buy when actually it corrects down sharply. Because right now, while I do think we are in a bull market for precious metals and hard assets, and in a bear market for fiat currencies and the dollar included. So when you get a big correction in the metals, that's a buy the dip opportunity. Other thing that I try to do that I haven't done all the time since I started buying gold in 2002, is to try to keep an even keel. And what does that mean? Well, when gold is doing really well, that's fine. You don't get excited. When gold gets hammered, you don't get despondent. You just grin and bear it. And I think that's the best way to go about it. And silver, of course, we still have a lot of room on the upside. Silver is going to do really well as well. And it's up to you to decide how much silver and gold you want to have, the proportion. Silver right now is 32.31. The spot price is up 20. The high has been 39. What about the rest of the market? Well, the Dow futures is down 88. The NASDAQ 100 futures down 175 points. And the S&P is just above 6,000, down about 30 points. The currencies are pretty steady. The dollars continue to drop versus the yen here. It's down 0.75%, testing 153. WTI crude is down a third at 72.21. High-grade copper is at 440, up 0.33%. And let's quickly look at the bond market. Bond market is still pretty steady. We're just below 4.5% in the 10-year. And in the UK, the same thing. We're actually just above 4.5% in the 10-year. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.